Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening episode of Pursue. This is Pursue 25C, which is pediatric pathology. We are streaming live from Decent Hospital, Kolkata. And today we have the third session of pediatric pathology, which will include inborn errors of metabolism and other genetic disorders, phenylketonuria, galactosemia, and cystic fibrosis, and others. And to speak on that, we have once again Dr. Krishti Chatterjee, who is an MBBS from North Bengal Medical College, MD Pathology from Medical College and Hospital, Kolkata. Presently, she is a consultant pathologist at the Decent Hospital and Heart Institute, Kolkata, with several awards in state and national level paper presentation and quiz competitions. She's also been the teacher and examiner in the state paramedical technical courses with multiple publication in national and international journals. Her areas of interest being histopathology and pediatric diseases, including hemoglobinopathies. Before I ask Dr. Chatterjee to start, let me request all of you to keep your mic muted, your camera off, and please don't share your screen. With this, I think I'll request Dr. Krishti Chatterjee, ma'am, please share your screen. Let's start.
Sir, is it visible and am I audible?
Yeah, perfectly visible and clearly audible. Please start. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, sir, for the kind introduction. Inborn errors of metabolism are a group of disorders causing delay in growth of infants along with psychomotor abnormalities and a host of other symptoms, hence requiring a good understanding of their mechanism. Cystic fibrosis, on the other hand, is a major cause of monogenetic abnormalities in Caucasian population with scope of multiple avenues of research. In the next half an hour to 1 hour, I am going to cover these two topics. So to begin with, inborn errors of metabolism are genetic diseases involving disorders of metabolism. Majority are single gene disorders, and the clinical features arise due to accumulation of substances which are toxic or interfere with the normal function or disrupt the synthesis of some compounds. The pathophysiology can be explained by the Garrod's model hypothesis, which was first proposed by the English physician Archibald Garrod in 1909. It suggests that each gene codes for a single specific enzyme, and each gene could be responsible for the enzyme facilitating a single step in a metabolic process. The major categories of inborn errors of metabolism can be grouped as per the biochemical pathways they affect. For example, the disorders of carbohydrate metabolism, for example, the glycogen storage disorders, disorders of amino acid metabolism like phenylketonuria, maple syrup urine disease, glutaric acidemia type 1, disorders of arginic acid metabolism, for example, alkaptonuria, disorders of fatty acid oxidation and mitochondrial metabolism, for example, medium chain acyl dehydrogenase deficiency or glutaric acidemia type 2, disorders of porphyrin metabolism, disorders of purine or pyrimidine metabolism, for example, Lesch-Nyhan syndrome, disorders of steroid metabolism, example, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, disorders of mitochondrial function, for example, Kearns-Sayre syndrome, disorders of paroxysmal function, for example, Zedi-Vega syndrome, and lysosomal storage disorders, for example, Gaucher disease. The glycogen storage disorders result from defects in processing of glycogen synthesis or breakdown within muscles, liver, and other cell types. Glycogen storage disorder can be genetic or acquired. The major types are type 1, von Gierke's disease occurring due to deficiency of glucose 6-phosphatase, type 2, Pompe's disease due to deficiency of acid maltase, type 3, Cory's disease due to glycogen debranching enzyme deficiency, type 4, Anderson's disease due to deficiency of glycogen branching enzyme, type 5, McArdle's disease due to deficiency of muscle glycogen phosphorylase enzyme, type 6, Hirsch's disease due to deficiency of liver glycogen phosphorylase enzyme, type 7, Tarwe's disease due to deficiency of muscle phosphofructokinase enzyme. Here is an overview of the metabolic chart involved in glucose metabolism. where we can see outline of the important enzymes involved in the pathway. We now move over to glycogen storage disorder type 1 or von Gierke's disease, which presents with symptoms of hypoglycemia, hyperlipidemia, hepatomegaly, lactic acidosis, and hyperuricemia. The main enzyme deficient is the glucose 6 phosphatase, which is an enzyme that hydrolyzes glucose 6 phosphate, resulting in creation of a phosphate group and free glucose. This deficiency impairs the ability of the liver to produce free glucose from glycogen and from gluconeogenesis. Since these are the two principal metabolic mechanisms by which the liver supplies glucose to the rest of the body, during periods of fasting, it can cause severe hypoglycemia. The treatment of von Gierke's disease. To compensate for the inability of the liver to provide sugar, the total amount of dietary carbohydrate should approximate the 24-hour glucose production rate. The diet should contain approximately 65 to 70% of carbohydrates, 10 to 15% of protein, and 20 to 25% fat. At least a third of the carbohydrates should be supplied through the night so that a young child goes no more than 3 to 4 hours without carbohydrate intake. Deficiency of glucose 6 phosphatase results in accumulation of glycogen in the hepatocytes. The liver is enlarged, the hepatocytes are swollen, and a mosaic histological pattern with compression of the sinusoids is seen. Macro or microvesicular steatosis can be present. Type 2, that is Pompe's disease. It is an autosomal recessive metabolic disorder which is caused by a mutation in a gene on long arm of chromosome 17 and causes a deficiency of the enzyme acid maltase. Accumulation of glycogen in the lysosome due to the deficiency of lysosomal acid alpha glucosidase occurs that transfers glycogen into glucose in the lysosomes. The buildup of glycogen causes progressive muscle weakness or myopathy throughout the body and affects various body tissues, particularly the heart, skeletal muscles, and weakness of facial and oral muscles. Pompe's disease is one of the important causes of restrictive cardiomyopathy and hepatomegaly. Patients of all ages, from infants to adults, may experience difficulties in eating. There is trouble with sucking, chewing, and/or swallowing that can lead to insufficient caloric intake, problems maintaining a healthy weight, and a general failure to thrive. Inadequate nutrition may even lead to endogenous muscle protein breakdown. The drug myozyme has been considered for the treatment of Pompe's disease. Myozyme replaces the enzyme missing in the disease, which helps to break down glucose. Early diagnosis and early treatment leads to much better outcomes. As Pompe's disease manifests in myopathies, these pictures show various morphology of muscle biopsy in Pompe's disease infantile form. In most fibers, the sarcoplasm is replaced by vacuoles filled with glycogen. Type 5, which is the McArdle's disease. A deficiency of enzyme myophosphorylase, which is the muscle isoform of the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase. This enzyme helps breakdown of glycogen into glucose 1-phosphate so that it can be utilized within the muscle cell. The onset of this disease is usually noticed in childhood, but often not diagnosed until the 3rd or 4th decade of life. Symptoms include exercise intolerance with myalgia, early fatigue, painful cramps, weakness of exercising muscles, and myoglobinuria. Myoglobinuria, the condition where myoglobin is present in urine, may result from serious damage to muscles, or rhabdomyolysis, where skeletal muscle cells break down rapidly, sending their contents into the bloodstream. Oral vitamin B6 appears to impart greater resistance to fatigue. No specific therapy exists, but combined aerobic exercise programs and high protein diets may help. Supervised exercise programs have been recommended to lessen the risks of extended inactivity. Sucrose treatment is now being recommended prior to exercise. These pictures show morphology of muscle biopsy in McArdle's disease. Muscle fibers show subsarcolemmal and intracytoplasmic vacuoles in hematoxylin and eosin stain. In PAS, we can see accumulation of subsarcolemmal glycogen. And in enzyme activity reactions, we can see negative myophosphorylase reaction. Type 7 Tarvis disease. Autosomal recessive inheritance of phosphofructokinase deficiency occurs, which causes impaired ability of cells such as erythrocytes and skeletal muscles to use carbohydrates for energy. The mutation impairs the ability of phosphofructokinase to phosphorylate fructose 6-phosphate prior to its cleavage into glyceraldehyde, which enters the Krebs cycle, effectively limiting the energy production. Unlike most other GSDs, it directly affects the glycolysis. The disease presents with exercise-induced muscle cramps and weaknesses, sometimes rhabdomyolysis, myoglobinuria, as well as with hemolytic anemia, which causes dark urine. Hyperuricemia is common. Phosphofructokinase deficiency also presents in a rare infantile form and results in severe myopathy and leads to death in infancy or early childhood. There is no cure as of now for Tarvis disease, but various treatments may alleviate symptoms and complications. Individuals with Tarvis disease should be observant to myoglobinuria, which presents as dark discoloration of urine. Owing to the risk of kidney damage, medical help should be sought immediately if symptoms arise. Dialysis is needed if toxic waste products accumulate owing to renal failure. Pigmented casts can be seen in urinary sediments as red blood cells, and antibody against human myoglobin gives a positive reaction. Cory's disease. Deficiency of debrancher enzyme amylo 1,6-glucosidase due to various mutations causes hypoglycemia. Variable liver, cardiac muscle, and skeletal muscle involvement may be noticed. Type 3A, which is the most common subtype affecting approximately 85% of the cases, causes mainly liver and muscle involvement. And in type 3B affects mainly 15%, only liver involvement is prominent. In liver biopsy sections, we can appreciate the hypertrophic hepatocytes with pale staining cytoplasm and portal fibrosis. Next, we come to the disorders of amino acid metabolism. Phenylketonuria. It is an autosomal recessive metabolic genetic disorder characterized by a deficiency in the hepatic enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. This enzyme is necessary to metabolize the phenylalanine to tyrosine. When phenylalanine hydroxylase is deficient, phenylalanine accumulates and is converted into phenyl pyruvate, which is detected in urine. It can cause progressive mental retardation, brain damage, and seizures. Optimal treatment involves lowering the blood phenylalanine levels to a safe range and monitoring diet and cognitive development. It is normally detected using the HPLC test after birth. MRI shows changes predominantly in the cerebral hemisphere, which causes extensive white matter abnormalities with restricted diffusion. The disease may present clinically with seizures, albinism, and a musty odor to the baby's sweat and urine due to phenyl acetate, which is one of the ketones that is produced. It is mainly treated by managing and controlling the phenylalanine levels through diet or a combination of diet and medication. All patients must adhere to a special diet low in phenylalanine for at least the first 16 years of their lives. This requires severely restricting or eliminating foods high in phenylalanine such as meat, chicken, fish, eggs, nuts, cheese, legumes, cow milk, and other dietary products. Starchy foods such as potatoes, bread, pasta, and corn must be monitored. Infants require a commercial formula of milk that is free from phenylalanine. Tyrosine, which is normally derived from phenylalanine, must be supplemented. The oral administration of tetrahydrobiopterin, which is a coenzyme required in this metabolic pathway, can be required in certain patients. For childhood, we can add some fruits and vegetables low in phenylalanine, which provide essential vitamins and minerals. Maple syrup urine disease, also called branched chain ketoaciduria, is an autosomal recessive metabolic disorder affecting branched chain amino acids. It is one type of organic acidemia caused by a deficiency of the branched chain alpha keto acid dehydrogenase complex, leading to a buildup of branched chain amino acids, that is leucine, isoleucine, and valine, and their toxic byproducts in the blood and urine. This disease is characterized in an infant by the presence of sweet-smelling urine with an odor similar to that of maple syrup. Infants with this disease seem healthy at birth, but if left untreated, they suffer severe brain damage and eventually die. A sample of urine from a patient of maple syrup urine disease is characteristically colored like the reddish maple leaves. A diet with minimal levels of amino acids leucine, isoleucine, and valine must be maintained in order to prevent neurological damage. As these three amino acids are required for proper metabolic function in all people, specialized protein preparations containing substitutes and adjusted levels of amino acids have been synthesized and tested, allowing maple syrup urine disease patients to meet normal nutritional requirements without causing harm. Glutaric acidemia type 1 is an inherited disorder in which the body is unable to break down completely the amino acids lysine, hydroxylysine, and tryptophan. Excessive levels of their intermediate breakdown products, that is glutaric acid, glutaryl CoA, 3-hydroxyglutaric acid, glutaconic acid, can accumulate and cause damage to the brain and also other organs, but particularly to the basal ganglia, which are the regions that help regulate movement. Glutaric acidemia type 1 causes secondary carnitine deficiency, as glutaric acid, like other organic acids, is detoxified by carnitine. Mental retardation may also occur. MRI image from the brain shows changes predominantly affecting the basal ganglia. Defects of organic acid metabolism, alkaptonuria. It is a rare inherited genetic disorder of phenylalanine and tyrosine metabolism. Autosomal recessive condition due to a defect in the enzyme homogentisate 1,2-deoxygenase, which participates in the degradation of tyrosine. As a result, a toxic tyrosine byproduct called homogentisic acid accumulates in the blood and is excreted in urine in large amounts. Excessive homogentisic acid causes damage to cartilage, leading to osteoarthritis and heart valves, as well as precipitating as kidney stones. No treatment modality has been demonstrated to reduce the complications of alkaptonuria. Commonly recommended treatments include dietary restriction of phenylalanine and tyrosine and large doses of ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. A histology of the skin showing hematoxylin and eosin staining with deposition of ochronotic pigment just under the epidermis. Also discoloration of sclera, urine, and often ochronotic pigments in joints and tendons and cartilages are observed. Next, we move over to the disorders of fatty acid oxidation and mitochondrial metabolism. Medium chain acyl coenzyme A dehydrogenase deficiency, which is also known as glutaric acidemia type 2, a fatty acid oxidation disorder associated with inborn errors of metabolism. It is due to defects in the enzyme complex known as medium chain acyl dehydrogenase and reduced activity of this complex. It is recognized as one of the more rare causes of sudden infant death syndrome. There is at present no cure for this disease, but once diagnosed, adverse effects can be prevented by proper management. The most important part of the treatment is to ensure that patients never go without food for longer than 10 to 12 hours, that is overnight fasting. Patients also usually adhere to a low-fat diet. Patients may also take daily doses of carnitine, which helps reduce toxic accumulation of fatty acids by forming acylcarnitines, which are excreted in urine. Acute intermittent porphyria is a rare autosomal dominant metabolic disorder affecting the production of heme, the oxygen-binding prosthetic group of hemoglobin. It is characterized by a deficiency of the enzyme porphobilinogen deaminase. Symptoms include abdominal pain, constipation, muscle weakness, and also tend to develop various psychiatric manifestations. A high carbohydrate, a glucose 10% infusion is recommended, which may aid in recovery. Iron intake should be adequate to avoid iron deficiency in these patients. Disorders of purine or pyrimidine metabolism. Lesch-Nyhan syndrome. It is inherited X-linked recessive disorder caused by a deficiency of the hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosyl transferase enzyme produced by mutations in the HPRT gene. This deficiency causes a buildup of uric acid in all body fluids. This results in both hyperuricemia and hyperuricosuria associated with severe gout and kidney problems, neurological signs which include poor muscle control and moderate mental retardation. These complications usually appear in the first year of life. In the second year of life, a particularly striking feature of this disease is the self-mutilating behaviors characterized by lip and finger biting. Because a lack of this enzyme causes the body to poorly utilize the vitamin B12, some of the children may develop megaloblastic anemia and neurological symptoms. Next, we move over to the lysosomal storage disorders. These disorders are caused by a deficiency of so many enzymes affecting the lysosomal pathways. For example, Tay-Sachs disease is caused by deficiency of enzyme hexosaminidase A that converts the GM2 ganglioside to GM3. Fabry's disease is caused by a deficiency of the enzyme alpha-galactosidase A that converts ceramide trihexoside to glucocerebroside. Gaucher's disease is caused by a deficiency of the enzyme glucocerebrosidase, that is the beta subunit of glucosidase, which converts the glucocerebroside to ceramide. Krabs disease is caused by a deficiency of the enzyme galactocerebrosidase, which converts galactocerebroside to ceramide. And Niemann-Pick's disease is caused by deficiency of sphingomyelinase that converts sphingomyelin to ceramide. This ceramide is the meeting point of so many diseases, that is a Gaucher's disease, Niemann-Pick's disease, and Krabs disease. On the other hand, metachromatic leukodystrophy is caused by a deficiency of the enzyme aryl sulfatase A that converts sulfatides to galactocerebroside. Now we come to the Gaucher's disease. Gaucher's disease is a genetic disease in which a fatty substance accumulates in cells and certain organs. It is caused by hereditary deficiency of the enzyme glucocerebrosidase. This enzyme acts on a fatty substance, glucocerebroside. When this enzyme is defective, the glucocerebroside accumulates particularly in the white blood cells. The glucocerebroside can collect in the spleen, liver, kidneys, lungs, brain, and bone marrow. Painless hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, mental retardation, and rapid and premature destruction of blood cells occur, leading to anemia. We can see Gaucher cells in the liver and bone marrow biopsy. These are lipid-laden storage macrophages, typically 20 to 100 micrometer in diameter, with eccentrically placed nuclei, and cytoplasm shows wrinkles and striations. Niemann-Pick's disease is due to a deficiency of the enzyme sphingomyelinase, where hepatic steatosis occurs. It is a rare disease affecting the body's ability to metabolize fat within cells, affecting the brain, liver, spleen, bone marrow, and lungs in severe cases. Tay-Sachs disease is due to deficiency of the enzyme hexosaminidase A, causing a buildup of gangliosides affecting the function of neurons in the brain. Fabry's disease is due to a deficiency of alpha-galactosidase A affecting the kidneys, heart, and skin, causing a buildup of sphingolipids. It is inherited in X-linked manner. Here we can see myeloid inclusions in the podocytes in Fabry's disease. Next, we move over to galactosemia. Galactosemia is an inherited disorder characterized by an ability of the body to utilize the galactose. Galactosemia means galactose in blood. The main source of galactose in the diet is milk products. The deficient enzyme that is responsible for galactosemia is called galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase. This enzyme enables the body to break down galactose into glucose for energy. Galactosemia is treated by removing the foods that contain galactose from the diet. Untreated galactosemia will result in a harmful buildup of galactose and galactose 1-phosphate in the bloodstream and body tissues. In this flowchart, we can see that the type 1 or classic galactosemia is due to a deficiency of the enzyme galactose 1-phosphate uridyl transferase, whereas type 2 is due to a deficiency of the enzyme galactokinase. And both these enzymes can be deficient in the autosomal recessive form of the disease. Infants with unrecognized galactemia usually have problems with feeding and do not grow as they should. If galactosemia is not treated, liver disease, kidney problems, brain damage, and in some cases can progress to death. The diet should allow most protein-containing foods other than milk and milk products. In hematoxylin, eosin, and mesenterical stained sections of liver in galactosemic patient, we can see severe hepatocellular damage with giant cell transformation, intralobular and portal fibrosis. Next, we move over to cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is an autosomal recessive disorder that affects epithelial cells of the respiratory, gastrointestinal, and reproductive tracts and leads to abnormal exocrine gland secretions. Although it can affect many organ systems, cystic fibrosis is particularly damaging to the lungs, leading to COPD in childhood and early adulthood. Children who inherit one faulty gene and one normal gene will be the carriers of this disease. Cystic fibrosis carriers usually have no or little symptoms of the disease, but they can pass the faulty gene onto their children. In cystic fibrosis, there is an alteration in the viscosity and tenacity of the mucus produced at epithelial surfaces. The classical form includes increased bronchopulmonary secretion and infection and pancreatic insufficiency with a high sweat sodium and chloride concentration. It is due to a mutation in the CF gene on chromosome 7. The most common mutation is the deletion of the bases coding for the amino acid phenylalanine at the 508th position. The abnormal CFTR protein in patients with cystic fibrosis leads to disruption of the chloride channels on the cells. Defective chloride transport causes more water and sodium reabsorption than normal. The secretion in affected organs becomes thick and viscous, obstructing the glands and ducts in the exocrine tissues. Here we can see the healthy channel as well as the faulty ion channel in case of cystic fibrosis. The primary defect results from abnormal function of an epithelial chloride channel encoded by the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator gene on chromosome 7. The amino acid polypeptide encoded has two transmembrane domains, two cytoplasmic nucleotide binding domains, and a regulatory domain that contains protein kinase A and C phosphorylation sites. The two transmembrane domains form a channel through which the chloride passes. Activation of the channel is mediated by agonist-induced increase in cyclic adenosine monophosphate followed by activation of protein kinase A that phosphorylates the R domain. The CFTR can regulate multiple ion channels and cellular processes, primarily through interactions involving its nucleotide binding domains. These include so-called outwardly rectified chloride channels, inwardly rectified potassium channels, the epithelial sodium channel, gap junction channels, and cellular processes involved in ATP transport and mucus secretion. Of these, the interaction of CFTR with the ENaC, which is the epithelial sodium channel, has possibly the most pathophysiologic relevance in cystic fibrosis. The ENaC is situated on the apical surface of exocrine epithelial cells and is responsible for sodium uptake from the luminal fluid, rendering the luminal fluid as hypotonic. The ENaC is inhibited by normally functioning CFTR. Hence, in cystic fibrosis, the ENaC activity increases markedly, augmenting the sodium uptake across the apical membrane. The functions of CFTR are tissue-specific. Therefore, the impact of a mutation is also tissue-specific. The major function of CFTR in the sweat gland ducts is to reabsorb the luminal chloride ions and augments the sodium reabsorption via the ENaC. Therefore, in the sweat ducts, the loss of CFTR function leads to a decreased reabsorption of sodium chloride and production of hypertonic sweat. However, in the respiratory and intestinal epithelium, The CFTR is one of the most important avenues for active luminal secretion of chloride. At these sites, the CFTR mutation results in loss or reduction of chloride secretion into the lumen. Active luminal sodium absorption is increased due to loss of inhibition of ENaC activity. And both of these ion changes increase passive water reabsorption from the lumen, lowering the water content of the surface fluid layer coating the mucosal cells. CFTR also regulates the transport of bicarbonate ions. The bicarbonate transport function of CFTR is mediated by reciprocal interactions with a family of anion exchangers. Various mutations have been detected which have been classified into various groups. The class 1 mutation of the CFTR cause defective protein synthesis, which are associated with complete lack of CFTR protein at the apical surface of epithelial cells. The class 2 mutations involve the abnormal protein folding, processing, and trafficking. The most common class 2 mutation is a deletion of 3 nucleotides coding for phenylalanine at amino acid position 508 in approximately 70% of the cystic fibrosis patients. In class 3 mutations, there is defective regulation. Mutations in this class prevent activation of CFTR by abrogating ATP binding and hydrolysis, which is an essential prerequisite for ion transport. In the class 4 mutations, there is decreased conductance. These mutations typically occur in the transmembrane domain of CFTR, which forms the ionic pore for chloride transport. There is a normal amount of CFTR at the apical membrane, but with reduced function. This class is usually associated with a milder phenotype. The class 5 mutations caused reduced abundance, which is the less amount of protein. These mutations typically affect ionotropic splice sites or CFTR promoter such that there is reduced amount of normal protein. In class 6, there is altered function in regulation of ion channels. Cystic fibrosis causes multi-system abnormalities. The hallmark pathophysiologic effects include excessive mucus production in the respiratory tract with impaired ability to clear secretions and progressive COPD, atelectasis, infection, bronchiectasis, dilatation of distal airway, scarring and fibrosis of lung tissue leading to chronic hypoxemia, pancreatic enzyme deficiency and impaired digestion, degenerative and fibrotic changes, abnormal elevation of sodium chloride concentration causes the sweat to become very salty. We can see a gross view of lung after fixation which cause well-defined cystic changes. As major brunt is borne by the lungs, grossly well-defined cystic changes become apparent in the specimen after fixation. Viscous mucus secretions of the submucosal glands of respiratory tract often lead to obstruction and infection of air passages. The bronchioles are often distended with tenacious mucus and marked hyperplasia and hypertrophy of mucus secreting cells is evident. In this picture, we can see cystic bronchial dilatation with a compacted matter in the lumen of the bronchi and inflammatory infiltrates in the alveoli. Section from the liver shows plugging of bile canaliculi by mucous material accompanied by ductular proliferation and portal inflammation. Over time, the hepatic steatosis and focal biliary cirrhosis develops, causing severe hepatic disease. The pancreas, in mild cases, may only show accumulation of mucus in small ducts with some dilatation of exocrine glands. In more severe cases, the ducts get completely plugged, causing atrophy of the exocrine glands and progressive fibrosis, fat malabsorption, and avitaminosis A. In this picture, we can see cystic dilatation of the intrapancreatic canals and fibrosis. The diagnosis of cystic fibrosis requires one or more characteristic phenotypic features or a history of cystic fibrosis in a sibling or a positive newborn screening test result and an increase in sweat gland chloride concentration on 2 or more occasions or identification of 2 CF mutation or demonstration of abnormal epithelial nasal ion transport. Many infections are associated with cystic fibrosis. Staphylococcus aureus, Haemophilus influenzae, Pseudomonas aeruginosa are common. The mucoid form of Pseudomonas aeruginosa produces alginate biofilm, which is evident in this section in a patient of COPD due to cystic fibrosis. Even more sinister is the Burkholderia cepacia and Burkholderia cenocepacia associated with cepacia syndromes. Aspergillosis might also cause problems in patients of cystic fibrosis. The goals of treatment of cystic fibrosis include preventing and controlling the lung infections, loosening and removing thick and sticky mucus from the lungs, preventing or treating the blockages in the intestines, providing enough nutrition, preventing dehydration, antibiotic medications, bronchodilators, supplemental oxygen, lung transplantation, and gene therapy. Pulmonary rehabilitation and lung transplantation are required in case of severe cases. With that, I come to the end of this presentation and I owe my acknowledgements to the standard textbooks, research articles, and available information on the internet. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christie. Yes, please. There is a question by Dr. Partho Pratim.
Yes, sir.
And also by Dr. Gohar Roy. What are the modalities of newborn screening for inborn errors of metabolism? That's the first question.
There are different modalities of screening for newborn errors of metabolism, primarily involving several biochemical tests. For example, liver function tests, which can show elevated enzyme activity, as well as some specific tests, for example, the whole genome sequencing, mass spectrometry, and MALDI-TOF spectrometry.
Right. Then there's the next question by Dr. Partho Pratim. He says, though cystic fibrosis is an autosomal recessive disease, the genotype may not correlate with phenotype. Why? If there are any genes involved other than CFTR gene?
In case of cystic fibrosis, the genotype may not always correlate with the phenotype. This is because due to an increased chance of infection in the lung, the thick mucus tightly envelops the bacterial colony, which can cause less penetration of antibodies and antibiotics. And there are several other environmental and genetic modifiers that can cause different manifestations phenotypically. And many people harbor pleomorphism of several genes. For example, the mannose binding lectin gene and interferon related development regulator 1 gene. These are some of the lesser expressed genes which may hamper the neutrophilic response and thereby modify the phenotypic expressions which might not relate to the genotype in case of cystic fibrosis.
Right. Dr. Indranil Chakravarti also has a question. He says, are there any acquired conditions that can present like cystic fibrosis?
This is an area where a lot of research is going on. Some of the severe cases of COPD, some of the severe cases of allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis and asthma might resemble cystic fibrosis, which again brings us to the enzymatic modifiers and the environmental modifiers because of several mutations in this disease.
Yeah. Just let me see if there's any question on the YouTube. Just 1 second. No, there are none. And I'm just waiting if any of the people who ask questions would like to ask a rejoinder to that before we conclude the session. You can unmute yourself and ask a question directly, Dr. Indranil, if you would like to answer or further comment on that. Right, I don't think so. There are any further questions. Dr. Partho Pratim there says, thank you, Dr. Christie, and thank you, sir. There's nothing to thank me. It's all Dr. Christie and her presentation. She has made all the effort.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to present.
No, pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much, Dr. Christie. This was a very nice presentation, very extensive and very detailed out. The difficult part of inborn error of metabolism and all these related conditions are that in a basic setup, it's very difficult to pick them up.
Yeah.
And primarily, apart from the theoretical and academic knowledge, the clinical knowledge and its day-to-day, activity and its presence are generally not appreciated by many of us. It's only in the higher centers where you have all the time in the world and you have all and you get all these referral patients, whereupon you can go ahead and then check for these genes. And with the availability of so many now molecular parameters, the way we can analyze the you can say we are getting more and more of these cases because now genetic and molecular armamentarium is much larger, and we're able
And
to pick up genetic
and
mutations much easier, much quicker.
yes, sir. And the newborn screening tests have now become a routine testing in several setups, and which also help us to pick up many of these latent disorders which might show up later.
Exactly, absolutely right. So there is a lot of difference in the case presentation and its analysis in teaching government setup and in a private setup, and both have a different set of their goods and bads.
Yes, sir.
And with that, I think I will conclude. And before I conclude, let me thank Dr. Christie. Wonderful presentation, very hard work done.